Hey everybody, welcome back to the Sanctum. Well, as you can see by this little display before us, it's that time of year again. And I'm sitting here taping this episode on December 21st, the winter solstice, the longest night of the year. So I thought I'd try something a little different this episode. Focus on some of the Sanctum holiday traditions, as well as showcase some cool monster holiday items in my collection. And that is why we'll be entitling this episode Dr. Durant's Season's Greetings Smorgasbord.
Sing a song of gladness and cheer. Sing of gladness and cheer, for the time of Christmas is here.
Now, next to Halloween, Christmas is one of my favorite holidays. And why wouldn't it be? A chance to browse through all those cool Sears catalogs and wish books and dream about all the things that might be waiting for me under the tree on Christmas morn. I mean, Christmas is when I got so many great toys that inspired me to restart this collection when I grew older. And as well as a lot of you, I think the same thing, as the collecting bug caught you as a child with the things you would get at Christmas time. Now, sitting here before us are a few of my favorite holiday decorations. We have these sort of Sideshow minifigures here, which were released as exclusives to dealers, I believe. It wasn't a set that you could buy. They were sent out in appreciation to dealers that sold Sideshow figures. We've got Frankenstein. He's got a little glitter on his forehead, and he's in a little Santa outfit, as you can see. And it says Seasons. We've got the Mummy, Boris Karloff version, and he's got his Christmas wrapping on, so to speak. And it says Greetings. And then we have the Wolfman, and he's got a lot of sparkle on his fur. And it says From, and he's got his Christmas PJs on too, or his Christmas pants, his Christmas pajama pants. Oh, and he's caught in a little gold bear trap, wolf trap. And you've got the Mummy, of course, has the scroll, and Frankie is chained. This is Season's Greetings From. And then we've got Dracula in his Christmas best. Sideshow toys. Christmas greetings from Sideshow Toys. So those, like I said, were released to dealers as sort of an appreciative gift for the holidays. I managed to score a set of them on eBay a few years back, and I bring them out every Christmas and display them. Now, next up is another Sideshow exclusive. Sideshow also put out two of the 12-inch versions of Frankenstein and Dracula in their Christmas pajamas. Now, these were sent out to dealers and people that sold Sideshow toys in appreciation at the holidays. And on the back market, they're really difficult to get. They go for a lot of money. And I happened to score both of them at different times for a very reasonable amount of money. I mean, some people sell these for crazy amounts of money online. And of course, we've got the first one, Count Dracula. Really great sculpt and paint job of Bela Lugosi. Merry Christmas. Season's greetings. Blah, blah. And he's got his little red footsie pajamas on. And he's over there wishing us all a Merry Christmas. He showed up in last year's Christmas episode. And we've got my favorite, of course, Frankenstein. Or the Frankenstein monster, if you prefer. And he's got his little cap on, waiting for Santa Claus to come and bring him a mate. And his boots. And of course, I bring these out and display them in the Sanctum every Christmas time. One cool thing I wanted to point out about the Bela Lugosi one that I ordered, they come in the regular boxes, you know, like this, but this one was autographed by Bela Lugosi Jr. It wasn't even advertised in the eBay auction that it had been autographed by Bela Lugosi Jr. It just showed up and I saw that it was signed by Bela Lugosi Jr. So someone must have got him to sign it at a convention or something like that and wound up in my collection. Next up, I have a couple of cool custom pieces. We've got this Yule Ghoul, and the card header is that picture there from Monster World, the Glenn Strange Frankenstein with the Santa outfit. And it's sort of done like this little, I think they called them Monster Nicks. They're kind of like little trolls. They were made in the 60s. And this one does it with a Frankenstein head and a Frankenstein body. It gives him a little Santa hat and a little scarf. And it looks very much like what is one of my favorite Frankensteins if you watch the Sanctum. Looks a little bit like the AHI Frankenstein. Really nice piece, very solid piece. I don't want to take it out of the bag because I love the packaging. Otherwise, I'd take it out and display it. But I display it usually just like this around Christmas time on my office desk or at the Christmas village we have in the house. And I've got an additional one here, which is the creature from the Black Lagoon. Now, these are handmade, I assume, and I bought some few other things from this guy. He makes some really interesting stuff. I think he does original Pez dispensers, and he makes more monster nicks like this that aren't necessarily holiday themed, but I wanted to get a holiday one. And this one's got the creature from the Black Lagoon in the header card with a Santa hat saying, "You better not cry, you better not shout, or the creature from the Black Lagoon will come for you." So those are some of my holiday monster collection. And I just recently acquired 2 excellent pieces for my holiday collection. So before I introduce these next 2 items, I'll just discuss some of the things I love about Christmas growing up. And one of the things I loved about Christmas growing up were the Rankin and Bass Christmas specials. There's Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, The Year Without a Santa Claus, and Santa Claus is Coming to Town. Those were the 3 that were my favorites, and The Little Drummer Boy. I really, really love The Little Drummer Boy, both versions, The Little Drummer Boy and The Little Drummer Boy Book 2. There was something really special about those specials. I mean, they were appointment TV back then to see those. And to this day, some of the songs from those Christmas specials are some of the best songs ever. And I love to play them in the Sanctum over Christmas time. I mean, I love Put One Foot in Front of the Other from Santa Claus is Coming to Town. I love One Star in the Night from Little Drummer Boy, which I can never find on a soundtrack album. I don't know if they ever released a soundtrack album, but I do find the YouTube clip and play that. That had some great songs in it. Why Can't the Animals Smile? Well, they really had great songs, like songs that were almost worthy of Broadway musicals, in my opinion. And I'm surprised with everything they're making musicals out of nowadays that nobody has taken any of these Rankin and Bass specials and turned them into a Broadway musical. But that being said, one of the songs from the Rankin and Bass specials that everybody remembers whenever you bring this up is Heat Miser and Snow Miser, or Snow Miser and Heat Miser. And I'll tell you, friends, you know who went ahead and made some custom figures of Heat Miser and Snow Miser? BrentzDolz. First up, we've got Heat Miser. Ba-dum, bum, bum, ba-dum. He comes in his custom card, and there is his puppet, as I guess it was. They were kind of like stop-motion marionette puppets. Really cool sculpt, and a great paint job as well. We get Heat Miser. And we've got them on the back. Let's get him out of his little clamshell prison and take a closer look, shall we? So here he is up close, our Heat Miser figure. You can see they put a lovely custom outfit on him. And what I really like the attention to detail here is he's got 4 fingers, just like the puppet does in the special. Heat Miser was voiced by George S. Irving, who was a really cool voiceover artist. I knew him most from being the narrator for the Underdog cartoon series. And he was he looked like the Heat Miser in real life. It's funny, they must have modeled the puppet after him because he did look very much like the puppet. And in most of those specials, Mickey Rooney does the voice of Santa Claus. I know he does Santa Claus in Santa Claus is Coming to Town and in The Year Without a Santa Claus. But Brent went ahead and made this great custom figure of the Heat Miser. And I don't know why nobody's thought of it before. Now, some of the Rankin and Bass properties have been licensed, and there was a bunch of stuff that came out in the late 90s, early 2000s, and there's still stuff that comes out to this day. But on the back market, a lot of that stuff is very expensive because Rankin and Bass collectors are rabid collectors as well. They have a really strong following. And I'm a huge Rankin and Bass fan. I mean, I love all the Rankin and Bass specials. And I also love Mad Monster Party, which is a big favorite of mine. It has a really great soundtrack as well. And I've got some items from that as well that'll show up, I'm sure, in another episode down the line. Well, you can't have Heat Miser without his arch enemy brother, Snow Miser. And there's the puppet of him, BrentzDolz, BrentzDolz at gmail.com. Got him in his little card here. And here he is, Snow Miser. Now, these just arrived the other day, just in the nick of time for Christmas, and I'm opening them here for the first time. You guys are seeing them get opened and hit the fresh air. Great sculpt. Look at the ice dripping off his nose there. Cool little boater hat that he wears, his scarf and his outfit. And again, he's got the 4 fingers just like the puppet has. Nice attention to detail, Brent. And he's got those shoes. And there they are, the Miser brothers. So these are the things that I will display around the sanctum. That little snowman over there, this little plastic snowman, he's a real favorite of mine. That was my grandmother's. It was always at her house when I was growing up. I think it's from the 40s, maybe early 50s. But I have had that thing forever. She just let me take it home one time. And it holds toothpicks in the back or candy canes we used to put in it. But I really love this thing. I mean, I love a lot of that mid-century Christmas paraphernalia and decorations. They just don't make stuff like that nowadays. There was something sort of, I don't know if it's, innocent is the word, but there was a charm about that stuff. And Snow Miser, of course, was voiced by the great Dick Shawn. Fantastic comedian and character actor from the 1960s. He was in It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. I don't know if I added an extra mad or left out a mad on that. And he was also in The Producers. And he's in one of my favorite 80s films, Angel. Honor student by day, Hollywood hooker by night. He plays a cross-dresser. And he has a great fight scene, and actually, spoiler alert, winds up getting killed in the movie, but he has a great fight scene with the villain of the piece who's dressed up like a Hare Krishna. And it's a really awesome scene. And I love Dick Shawn. He was a great character actor. He had a great voice. And he died very young. And the famous thing about Dick Shawn is that he actually died on stage while performing. And everybody thought that it was part of the act. And so he lay there on stage after he had had a heart attack for a while, people thinking that this was part of the show, when in fact he had suffered a heart attack and was dying. Well, that was kind of a grim little tale to throw into a Christmas episode or a holiday episode. So we've spent our time with the Miser brothers, and if you want to purchase these fine fellows, like I said, I think Brent is sold out of them, but he can sometimes be convinced to make more. You may want to reach out to him at BrentzDolz. I will leave a link, as usual, in the description of this video. Now, speaking of Christmas lights, I have these very cool monster lights that I like to decorate my office with every day of the year, but around Christmas time it's kind of special because you can change the colors on these to be Christmas colors: red, green, white, blue. And of course I've got the big three here: Dracula, Frankenstein, and the Mummy. And these are made and sold by John Pagel. His website, or his page, is Images by Light, and I will leave a link to that in the description as well. But these are neat little, they're sort of like laser etchings, I guess, on hard plastic, and they fit in these little light boxes, and they can be battery operated or powered by a USB cord. And I like to stick them around the office and be comforted by the warm Christmas lights of Count Dracula, the Frankenstein monster, and the Mummy. Now, one of the next traditions we have here at Christmas time in the Sanctum is the opening and reading of the Christmas comics. Now, I have collected comics since I've been a child. It's one of the first things I collected, and I love comic books, particularly comic books from the Bronze Age era. But now, I'm not talking about comic books, Christmas comics such as The Story of Rudolph or The Adventures of Santa Claus, although I do buy those as well. I'm talking about comic books that take place around Christmas time, that have a Christmas story in them. Spider-Man patrolling the streets on Christmas Eve. Batman, delivering presents to an orphan child. Things along those lines. And they still come out with Christmas comics, but back in the day they would have Christmas specials, or some of the main heroes would have their Christmas themed issues. And I love reading those and collecting those, and I love to read them by the light of the Christmas tree at night when the house is quiet and no one else is around, so I can just be me, the Christmas tree, and my comic books. And I've got quite a few short boxes full, maybe two short boxes full of Christmas themed comics. So I can't read them all every year, but there are certain ones that I do try and break out and read that just get me in the Christmas spirit and the Christmas mood. And ones that I break out every year are the Creepy Warren Magazine holiday specials. Creepy came out in the 70s. It was sort of trying to relive that EC era of horror comics. And they had some fantastic stories and fantastic art. And they were magazine-sized black and white comics, so they could get away with some of the stuff that the Code couldn't. And there are 3 ones that I break out every year, and I'm going to showcase those to you now, or show those to you now. We've got this great issue here of Creepy with an awesome cover by San Julian. He was an artist that did a lot of the covers. He did a lot of Vampirella covers. And look at that cover. I mean, this is from January 1974. It says, special giant Christmas horror issue with color. Creepy. Better not shout. Better not cry. Better watch out. I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming to town. Now, this is way ahead of Silent Night, Deadly Night, and Christmas Evil. We've got a killer Santa Claus going down into the chimney with this big medieval bloody axe there. And there is already, or maybe he's coming out of the chimney, because there's already a deceased person laying there beneath him in the apartment below with the banner Merry Christmas. And if you take a look at this cover, it's kind of interesting. The Santa Claus fellow kind of resembles Boris Karloff a bit to me. And then, of course, we've got the next one, the giant Christmas issue. And they all seem to feature Santa on the cover. This one is from 1977. And it's got Valerie waited eagerly for Christmas and Mother's Robot's reluctant Yuletide gift. Read Mother Knows Best. 7 dazzling stories. You've got this robot now. 77, of course. We've got Star Wars. So, although I don't think Star Wars had come out just yet, Star Wars was May of 77. So, this just happens to be a coincidence that they've got a sci-fi themed Christmas issue. Next, we've got special issue 7 Christmas Chillers with color, creepy. This one's from 1975. 'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the house little creatures were stirring, strewing bodies about. It's got this great cover. Both those, I'm sorry, the last cover was by Ken Kelly. This one is also by Ken Kelly as well. And you've got this one with Santa's got this bag full of entrails and body parts, and you've got these little creepy elves and gnomes stuffing these stockings with the body parts from the bag. One's carrying a heart there. You've got this eyeless severed head sticking out of a stocking. Just super gruesome and grim, which it was very typical of creepy back then. It could get away with that, which I'm very surprised this was on the cover, though. You've actually got, a really gruesome cover here. And of course, this didn't meet with any backlash back in the day that Santa was being portrayed as a killer or anything like that. It probably flew under the radar because it was just this, black and white horror magazine. But it's really, really, really awesome. I love these covers and I love these books. And inside, the stories are very well written. And there's something about that style of writing from the Bronze Age or the 70s where you had a lot of younger people coming into the comic book field and writing comics. You had older ones too, but they tried to tackle a lot of the social economic issues that were taking place at the time. A lot of these writers lived in New York City, so the stories were set in New York City, and they would focus on, depressed people at Christmas time, things along those lines. Some of them are really gruesome and grim, and some of them are actually quite heartwarming and touching. And that is why these stories resonate with me. Like any good Christmas story, they're filled with a spirit of hope and redemption, all told within the trappings of a black and white horror magazine from the 1970s. I mean, it really dates all the way back to A Christmas Carol, doesn't it? A story of hope and redemption and reinstilling your faith in humanity, told within the trappings of a ghost story. And that's what these tales do. They really do have a lot of heartfelt moments in them, despite how melodramatic some of the writing can be. You have to get past that. But I find them quite touching. And there's one story that I read every year, and it is called The Greatest Christmas of All, and it's from one of those creepy magazines I showcased here. And in brief, it's a story about a young boy that becomes Santa Claus, and he's old and he's tired, and he's reflecting back on his childhood and what he considered the greatest Christmas of all. And it's a touching story, and the ending always gets to me. So what I'd like to do right now is share this story with you without any commentary from me, so that you can get lost in it the way I did when I first experienced it. And if you so desire, perhaps you'll seek out this issue and purchase it for your own and make it part of your Christmas Eve tradition. It's a great story, and the thing that resonates with me most about it is that despite all the cruelty in the world, all the hardship in the world, there is still empathy out there. There is still kindness, if you know where to look.
cheer from everywhere, filling the air. All the other tones hear the ring, while people sing song of good cheer. Christmas is here. Merry, 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 merry Christmas. Merry, 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 merry Christmas. On this day, on without end, their joyful tone to every home. Hark how the bells, sweet silver bells, all seem to say, throw cares away. On this day, on without end, on this day, on without end.
And now we come to the final stretch of Dr. Durant's Season's Greetings Smorgasbord. Smorgasbord? And now we come to the final stretch of this episode. Last year at Christmas, I recommended several offbeat Christmas movies or Christmas movies that weren't quite Christmas movies. Christmas Evil, Black Christmas, Salesman, among a few others. This year, what I'd like to do is recommend 4 different Christmas-themed TV episodes that I try and watch every year as well. And what these episodes have in common is much like A Christmas Carol. They all involve a character experiencing a dark night of the soul, so to speak. Christmas Eve can be a wonderful time, but it can also be a very dark and scary time for some people. And these 4 episodes, again, have that melancholy quality to them, but at the same time, there's a redemptive quality, and you leave them feeling happy, but at the same time, there's just a touch of sadness inside you, which is kind of what Christmas is all about. It's coming to the end of the year, and our past, our present, and our future is all swirling around us at once. First up, we have the only Christmas episode of Kojak. It's a really great episode. It starts off with this old Christmas carol being sung that's very melancholy as well, talking about how, what will the new year bring to us? What will we hope for? And what will we regret? The premise of the story is that there's a guy on the loose, and Kojak and his squad have to find him on Christmas Eve before something terrible happens. And because it is Christmas Eve, Kojak, of course, doesn't want this guy to be shot and killed. And it's great because it has some great exterior shots of New York City at Christmas time. There's a lot of scenes inside bars, which are decorated for Christmas. Edward James Olmos shows up as a bartender in an early role. And of course, Telly Savalas is awesome as Kojak in this. He wears this great Christmas vest. And like I said, this was the only Christmas episode of Kojak they did. It was early on. I think it was season 3, I believe. I might be season 2. I could be wrong. But it's fantastic. It has that wonderful Christmas carol at the beginning. It's got great Christmas scenes around the city of New York. And if you're a Kojak fan, the last few lines that Telly Savalas delivers, I just wish that was the Christmas greeting I could give and get every year. The next one is from The Twilight Zone, and it is The Changing of the Guard. Now, the most popular Christmas episode of The Twilight Zone, most people think, is Night of the Meek, which is a great episode, but I prefer this one. This one involves Donald Pleasance, and he is a college professor, and on Christmas Eve, he finds out that they are retiring him. They don't want him to be part of the college any longer. And of course, that has been his whole life. And he feels that he has accomplished nothing, he has done nothing, he has left nothing for anyone. And he goes off to commit suicide. And And just as he is about to pull the trigger and blow his brains out, he hears the school bells ringing from the school. And he goes to the school and he enters his classroom. And there before him are ghosts of his former students. And I won't spoil it, but it has one of the saddest and happiest endings of a Twilight Zone. It always makes me choke up. Donald Pleasance is amazing in this. He was such a fantastic actor, and he does such a great job in this. He will break your heart how good he is in this. The third episode I'd like to recommend is from the series Millennium. Millennium was sort of the follow-up series to X-Files that Chris Carter did, and it lasted, I think, about 3 seasons. It did all right, but it didn't do X-Files numbers. But the star of Millennium was Lance Henriksen, who is amazing. And they have a Christmas episode called Midnight of the Century. And this episode is fantastic for 2 reasons. One, it's got Lance Henriksen, and the other, it has Darren McGavin. And Darren McGavin plays Frank Black's dad in this episode. And they've been estranged for years, and something happened to Lance Henriksen's mother in the past. We start to learn a little bit about it. And on Christmas Eve, they come together. And again, I don't want to spoil it, but it's got a heartbreaking ending. And I really recommend you seek this out. The series itself is great, Millennium. I'm working my way through some of the episodes. It's got some of that early 90s style cinematography, shot in Vancouver. It's always raining and everything's overcast. But the Millennium episode, Midnight of the Century, again, it ends with Frank going into midnight mass, and it's wonderful. It's a great episode. And the fourth and final episode I'm going to recommend is from Night Gallery, and it is called The Messiah is Due on Mott Street. And in this one, there is a little boy whose grandfather is dying in a tenement building. And check out this cast: Edward G. Robinson, Tony Roberts, and Yaphet Kotto. And again, this is shot on the Universal backlot, but they've got the fake snow, but it still has that wonderful Christmas feeling to it. And ultimately, Yaphet Kotto plays, for all intents and purposes, Jesus coming back. And he is amazing. Yaphet Kotto was a fantastic actor. I loved him in everything I saw him in. I mean, he's such an iconic figure. He was an Alien. He's on one of my all-time favorite television shows ever, Homicide: Life on the Street, which, by the way, also has a great Christmas Eve episode. But The Messiah is Due on Mott Street is, a lot of people cite it as one of the better Night Gallery episodes. And they are all out now on DVD. I think you can probably find them streaming. And Kino just released a Blu-ray version of the first season, which I just picked up. Unfortunately, The Messiah is Due on Mott Street is in the second season. But I think if you play all 4 of these episodes on Christmas Eve, say put them on around 10 p.m. if you're not a late night person, and watch them all in a row, it'll hit you in that sweet, melancholy Christmas Eve spot. And that will bring us again to the end of another episode of Dr. Durant's Sanctum. Thanks for taking this time and spending it with me. I hope you enjoyed some of the stuff we had to show here. It was quite a smorgasbord, as we said. We had action figures, we had TV recommendations, we talked Christmas comic books. And I hope you'll come back for our next episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe, give us a thumbs up, and swing on by our Facebook page, check in and chat with other like-minded individuals. What are some of your favorite Christmas specials? What are some of your favorite Christmas traditions? Are there Christmas comics you read, Christmas books, episodes of TV programs you watch, or some of your favorite Christmas movies? Hit us up in the comments. I always try and respond back, and I love to hear what you guys and gals are thinking about out there. So, in the immortal words of Theo Kojak, love thy neighbor, baby, And, in the words of Dr. Durant, walk in beauty, my friends.
It was a monster's holiday.
But they were up to no good.
It was a monster's holiday.
Didn't act like good monsters
It
should.
was a monster's holiday.
They found themselves a new prey.
It was a monster's
They planned to
holiday.
rob Santa's sleigh. They were making a list and checking it twice. Frankenstein wanted a shiny new trike, a new chain for Yanish, a brace for Igor's back, a shaver for the Wolfman, a new cape for Drac.
It was a monster's holiday.
They were up to no good.
It was a monster's holiday.
Didn't act like good monsters
It
should.
was a monster's holiday.
They found themselves a new prey.
It was a monster's
They planned
holiday.
to rob Santa's sleigh. The mummy was to signal from the castle roof at the very first sound of a reindeer's hoof. As Santa slid down the chimney wall, the zombies were to make off with sleigh and all. For beyond the moat there rose such a clatter, I jumped to the window to see what was the matter. Like a bolt of lightning, it happened so quick. There in our midst stood old Saint Nick.
It was a monster's holiday.
But they were up to no good.
It was a monster's
Didn't
holiday.
act like good monsters should.
It was a monster's
They
holiday.
found themselves a new prey.
It was a
They
monster's
planned to
holiday.
rob Santa's sleigh. But he began to dig down deep in his sack and came up with the traction for Igor's back. Drac got his cape. Frankie promised to behave, and the Wolfman was happy. Now he can shave.
It was a monster's holiday.
And all ended well.
It was a monster's holiday.
Santa was really
It
swell.
was a monster's holiday.
No need to rob Santa's
It
son.
was a monster's holiday.
Maybe next year he'll come back. Now, you monsters. What do you think of Santa? Wasn't he great? Remember, he's the one you wanted to bait. He brought you happiness and cheer.